So what are the pros and cons of hunting small game with a shotgun versus a .22 long rifle? It's time to do some testing. Hey, George here with the New Hunter's Guide YouTube channel and podcast, and today we're going to try to generate some data to help us understand the strengths and weaknesses of hunting small game with a shotgun versus a .22. Now, when I say small game, I'm talking about things like rabbits, squirrels, pheasants, grouse, crows, and things of that size. And as always, make sure to check your local laws and regulations to see what arms and ammunition you can use to hunt the game you want to pursue. But there's certainly places where you can use both of these, so that's what we're going to try to get a feel for today. Now, the actual shotgun and .22 long rifle that we plan to use today, I think are not that important. There's so many shotguns and .22s out there, the makes and models shouldn't be the thing that we focus on. Some data points that are maybe relevant. We're going to use a 12 gauge with a 28-inch barrel. That is an auto loader with a modified choke tube. On the other side, we're going to be using a 21-inch barrel bolt action .22 with a scope. Now, why these two guns? Well, these are the two that I have that I would be most likely to take into the woods small game hunting. A lot of people say, George, shouldn't you hunt small game with a 20 gauge or a 28 gauge shotgun? Well, those guns are absolutely up for the job, possibly better choices. However, there are so many more 12 gauges out there that we're going to test that because more people can relate to that data. The ammunition that we're going to use today, for the 12 gauge, I've got some Kent Fastlead number 5s, 3 inches, 1.75 ounces, traveling at 1,325 feet per second. Against that, I've got some CCI Stingers, which is a 32 grain copper plated hollow point, traveling at 1,640 feet per second. Now, of course, this shotgun shell right here is drastically more potent than this round of .22 long rifle. However, the comparison comes down to precision versus margin of error. So let's head down to the range and get this test started. And I am down at the range. Please bear with any gunfire you hear in the background. The first drill I'm going to do today is just to shoot some groups at 20 yards and 40 yards. With the .22, we're going to shoot a group offhand and a group from a rest at 20 and then again at 40. And then with the shotgun, we're just going to take one shot at 20 and one at 40. We'll go ahead and start off here with our offhand groups and our stingers. Now we'll do a group from a rest. Okay, let's go set up at 40 yards. And now we're set up at 40 yards. We'll go ahead and do our offhand shots first. Okay, now we'll take the rest. Okay, now we'll pull out the shotgun, see what that'll do, and then we'll go take a look at these targets. We have our modified choke tube on our shotgun. Now you might ask, George, what is the purpose of this first round of drills? Well, the idea is to see what kind of precision we can hit targets with under different scenarios and similar to field conditions. So we see the .22 long rifle is capable of a certain level of accuracy under different scenarios. Now let's see what the shotgun will do. We've got our heavy-duty Fastlead shell. We'll take our first shot. Now we'll go ahead and take our shot at 40 yards. Okay, let's go take a look at these targets. Well, these groups and patterns are very interesting. I've got these targets laid out here. You might want to rewind, watch this a couple of times, but let's jump in and take a look at the 20-yard results. You can see first with the 22, offhand, not a bad group. There's my hand for comparison. From a rest, drastically better, wow. And then with the shotgun, yeah, tremendous more hits. Then we go to 40 yards, offhand. Not bad at all, actually, maybe just as good as 20 yards. And from a rest, very nice group there. And then we've got our shotgun pellets. Not bad, certainly more hits. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and measure these groups and get that data for you. I'm also gonna count the pellets and the shoot and see targets. Normally, we would draw a 30-inch circle and look for the densest part of the pattern, but the goal of this particular test is to kill these targets and to be as precise as we can. So that's the way we're gonna measure it today. This next test simulates multi-target acquisition. I have 3 clay targets on the backstop for the 22 and 3 clay targets for the shotgun. The idea here is I'm gonna face you guys, load up, turn around. I've got 6 shots in the gun. The goal is to break as many of the targets as fast as possible using the least number of shots possible. So this is not necessarily a rush drill, but extra points are awarded for speed. Let's go ahead and begin with the 22. Okay, I've got 3 targets dead, 4 shots fired. You ask, George, how far are those targets? I'm not entirely sure, and you wouldn't be entirely sure either when that rabbit jumps out of a bush. All right, let's go ahead and pick up the shotgun. And I stand corrected with the 22 long rifle. I broke 4 targets with 4 shots. I accidentally shot one of the shotgun targets and thought I had missed the rifle target. So I don't know what we're gonna do with the timing and the score on that. We might just have to throw that away and just count it 3 for 3. But we've got our shotgun right here. We're gonna load it up. We got 3 shells we're gonna put in the gun. Now, of course, the shotgun's at a slight disadvantage because we'll have to reload if we have any misses. All right, let's go ahead. Okay, 3 for 3, no misses, complete overkill, I might add. And for those of you who are wondering about the recoil difference, I cannot use enough words to express the difference in recoil. This thing versus the 22, no comparison. Massive recoil over here compared to almost no recoil whatsoever with the 22. Though, as we've obviously stated already, 20 gauge, 28 gauge, probably better tool for this job if recoil is any concern whatsoever. Obvious overkill. I'll go ahead and start crunching these numbers, but we've got one more test to do. There is a very important point that I want to interject here, guys. I am not a big fan of firing a 22 or any single shot projectile into a tree, and I am opposed to shooting it at anything that is flying. The reason is this: a 22 long rifle is dangerous or deadly drastically further away than any bird shot is. And while you might be able to line up a safe shot in a tree with a hillside behind it, if you're shooting at a flushing pheasant that's going across like this, I do not see how you could maintain the situational awareness to know where that bullet is going to end up. Please, always and only take shots that are safe. And for our next test, we're going to shoot some ballistics gel. I want to see how much penetration and expansion we get from the 22. Now, yes, we would normally expect the 22 to penetrate much deeper than the 12 gauge pellets. However, like I said, these are high velocity hollow points, so I'm not quite sure what's going to happen in the gel. We're going to take 3 shots so we can get an average, and I'm going to be shooting from a kneeling position just to make sure I have a flat trajectory going into the gel. Wouldn't want it to go in the front and come out the side or the top or the bottom or something like that. Let's go ahead and load up. And we'll take our shots. Okay, let's switch guns. Now I have the shotgun ready, and for those of you who are wondering, we're shooting at about 20 yards. Let's go ahead and load it up. Okay, let's go take a look at this gel. I have this ballistics gel laid out. Keep in mind, the hotter it is, the more penetration you're likely to see in the ballistics gel. Today's a very warm day, so we're probably seeing more penetration than we would on a cold day. But let's go ahead and take a look. They're all from left to right. You can see the 22s here, here, and there. Very good penetration on everything. The 22 looks like it's somewhere around 8 to 9 inches of penetration, and I'm seeing very good expansion on all 3 shots. I'm very pleased with that expansion. The 12 gauge is coming in right around 5 to 6 inches, it looks like, which I think is quite good for all things considered. Certainly the 22 has more penetration and more expansion, but we have way more 12 gauge pellets in there. Now I'm gonna measure some of these pellets and the 22 rounds, get some averages for you guys, and pull all that data along with the previous data together in some charts momentarily. Well, I thought this test was a lot of fun. So much fun, I think I'm gonna hit the thumbs up button myself. And if I hadn't already subscribed, I'd probably do that too. Let's jump in and look at the data. You can see here, guys, that for the group and pattern testing, the 22 offhand at 20 yards, 2.6 inch group. At 40 yards, it actually got better, 1.6 inch group. And with the rest, we were 0.8 inches and 0.8 inches again at 40 yards. Now again, we only took 3 shots in these groups, so stuff like that can happen. But the takeaway here is very tight groups under field or similar to field conditions, very good precision. You look at the shotgun pattern. At 20 yards, we had a 15 to 20 inch pattern. It was a little bit oblong. And then at 40 yards, 30 plus inches, it was off the paper. And so 89 pellets on the target at 20 versus 26 pellets in the circle at 40. Again, that circle is just that small reactive target. Now, something to keep in mind here. That shotgun pattern gives you 15 to 20 inches of margin at 20 yards. So way more margin, obviously, than the rifle gives you with its 1 shot. However, if you were to hit a squirrel or a rabbit with that shot, you would do so much damage, I don't know that you would be able to salvage enough for a meal after it. At 40 yards, probably better margins there. You've got a lot fewer pellets on the target. But again, my accuracy here with the rifle, very good at 40 yards, very likely to be able to hit a stationary target. Let's move on and look at the clay drill data. You can see here that with both, we got 3 out of 3 shots. Interesting on the time here. Now, I only counted the first 3 shots with the rifle because we accidentally took 4 and hit 4 targets. But for the first 3 shots, 6.69 seconds. And with the shotgun, significantly faster, 2.68 seconds. Now, some of that's because it's a bolt action, but some of it's also because I don't need to take as much time and effort to aim the shotgun because instinctively I know that there is some margin of error. But we see the shotgun obviously performs better shooting with a multi-target drill. Then we look at the ballistics gel test. We see the rifle gives us 9.5 inches of penetration versus the shotgun at 5.53 inches of penetration. So 72% more penetration with the rifle than the shotgun. Now, I don't know of any small game that I need 9.5 inches of penetration. Most of the game that I'm hunting is not 9 inches wide. However, what the 22 does give you is some extra range. If you were to poke out beyond shotgun range, let's say in the 60 to 100 yard zone, the 22 would retain enough ballistics energy to still take down a lot of small game. And I can shoot this particular 22 well enough to probably be able to hit a rabbit or similar sized target at 100 yards, especially with a little bit of practice and a rest if I could find it in the field. But even without the rest, still a reasonable chance of success, probably better chance than a shotgun. However, However, which one is best really depends on your personal preferences, what you're hunting, and how far you plan to hunt. For example, if I'm going out after rabbits and I plan to take short to mid-range shots, I'm probably going to go with the 22. I'm plenty accurate with it, and I don't want to do too much damage to the animal. But if I'm going out on a mixed bag hunt and I'm going after, say, rabbits and there might be pheasants there, I'll probably opt for the shotgun so that I can take flying shots. Now, when it comes to overkill, a sub-gauge could definitely help with that. Going with a 20 gauge or a 28 gauge or even just lighter 12 gauge loads might be better for short to mid-range shots on small game. However, make sure that you test your guns and ammo that you plan to hunt with to see how they perform in your hands. That's why I landed on this bolt action 22 versus an autoloader. In fact, I did an entire video on the subject that you can find right here, as well as how far you can hunt with 22 ammo right there. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you, and go get 'em in the woods.